These are the supplies that we'll be using to create our canvas for our 21 Everydays project.
All the information on the exact kind of paper I'm using, as well as the tape, can be found in prep email number 3.
So I just have a piece of watercolor paper that I'm going to be using as my canvas. Then I have this washi tape to help tape off the sections. And then I have just a pencil and eraser. The first thing I do is I actually take a scrap piece of paper, and we're gonna be making 21 sections on here. So what I do first is in pencil on scratch paper, I just draw random lines to create 21 sections to see how that looks. Like, how big are the sections? Are they all gonna be super tiny? Are they really big? Just so I have a visual of what that looks like. I'm using curved lines on here, but if you wanna do straight lines, it's the same thing. I would draw some straight lines. It doesn't have to be perfect, and count the sections until you get 21 so that you can have a visual of what that's gonna look like on your piece of paper.
The way I get 21 sections on the scratch piece of paper is by drawing lines, and then once I feel like I have a decent amount, I'll stop. I'll count how many sections there are, then I'll keep splitting up the sections until I get 21. I'll be doing that same process on the actual piece of paper that I'll be using. So if you want to watch that first before you draw on your scratch paper, please feel free to do that.
I am using 8 by 10 paper for my canvas, and this is a regular 8.5 by 11 piece of paper. So it's not the exact size, but for me, I can see, what it should look like. So after I have this visual, then I'll go to my actual piece of paper that I'm gonna be using, and make sure you're using the right side. I've done that before where I accidentally did it on the back side. And what I'm gonna do is start drawing lines. I'm just gonna be drawing some curved lines on this piece of paper. And once I get to what I think is 21, then I'll stop there. Let me do that part first, and then I'll walk you through the next step. I'm gonna use both curved lines and straight lines. I'm trying to make sections where I feel like they're not too big or too small. Okay, so once I get here, there are still bigger sections that I can split up if I need to, but I do want to count and see how many I have right now. And what I like to do is still in pencil, as I count, I'll number the sections. This way I can keep track. I don't forget to count one of these sections, and I know how many I need to add to this. So here's 1, 2, 3, 19, 20, 21. So I actually did 21 sections. So if I had only counted 20, for example, then I know I need one more section. So I would go back to one of these larger sections and split it up so that I have one extra section. So that's why I kind of keep some of these a little bit bigger so that if I need to split them, I can. Once you have your 21 sections, everything's in pencil. So if you want to adjust anything, this is your time. So for me, I do feel like section number 2 is quite small. So I just want to move this line over so that it's a little bit bigger, because we have enough space on this piece of paper to create bigger sections. So I kind of want to do that. So I'm actually going to split this and maybe go like that. And number 13 is kind of small. So, these lines don't have to go through. For example, I have a line here, but it doesn't go all the way through. That's totally fine too. So for this one, I am just going to erase this line and then just split it up with 14. So actually, instead of going here, I'm just gonna curve this line like that. So now I have some sections that are bigger, smaller. It's up to you. If you want some really tiny sections, you didn't have to make those same adjustments that I did. So now you have your base in pencil, and I did want to mention, if you can, go lightly with your pencil. I am going a little bit darker just so it shows up on camera better, but that will just help, because at the very end of the project, after we put on the tape, fill in our sections, then peel all the tape off, there will be the pencil lines left here. So it'll just be easier to erase if it's a little bit lighter. Now, before I do the tape, I'm actually going to just erase all the numbers that I have here. And then by erasing, it's also one more check to make sure I really do have 21 sections. With 21 sections, it's pretty easy to keep track of, but when you're doing something like 100, it gets really confusing quickly. So I do a lot of double checking. And I also want to say there are different methods of doing this. This is a way that has worked for me. And again, I'm using curved lines, but if I was using straight lines, I do it the same way. I'm just gonna go back and erase and count as I do. So here's 1, 2, 3, 19, 20, 21. So that's 21 sections that we're gonna be filling in, and I've double checked, and this looks good to me. So once you have your grid lines, then you can start taping it. When you're using straight lines, it's a lot easier. I will just tape, cut, do that. For curvier lines, it's a little bit trickier because you do have to bend the tape. So the tape isn't going to look perfectly smooth, but that's okay. But I'm just gonna follow the lines and then tape this up and cover all the pencil lines with the tape. As an example, I'm gonna do this line first, just to show you how I kind of just guide the tape when it's a curvy line. I'm actually gonna do this one because this one to me is a little bit curvier. I just start, and I always tape extra because you can always cut this extra off the paper or fold it over, which I recommend. By folding it over, it just helps to like really seal it down and you don't run the risk of it kind of peeling off the edges as you go and accidentally having the sections mixed together. So I'll always tape a little bit extra, and then you do just have to have some patience, and then you're just going to tape it and then kind of adjust the tape a little bit for the curves. It can take a while, and take your time. And I'm using the guidelines sort of at the top of the tape, as you can see. But that's just my preference and how I happen to do it. I'm very freeform with this. I don't mind the sections, not being exactly what the lines are. So maybe sometimes I'll have my tape where the pencil line is in the middle. Sometimes the pencil line might be at the top or the bottom of the tape. I'm fine with that. If you want to find a consistent way to do it, that's okay too. What I try to do is, I think I'll probably stop somewhere around here because I feel like it's a little bit hard to get this curve all the way around. So I'm just tearing off a piece of the tape, and then I'm just putting it down and sort of folding it a little bit. It automatically will create a crease when you're trying to curve it on one side. Just push it down. So if you like cleaner lines, using straight lines definitely helps with that. Where with the curved lines, I'll do a close-up of this, you'll kind of see the edges aren't going to be totally perfect because your tape is straight and you're forcing it into a curved shape. So here's a close-up of the tape, and as you can see, there's going to be some wrinkles and this line might not be perfect. For me, I'm okay with that. If this is going to bother you, then I would recommend doing straight lines instead of curved lines. I am going to take some time to tape this all up, and then I'll show you my finished product. But that's basically what I do when I tape up my sections and the process that I follow. So for these edges, I am gonna just fold it over. And then I also wanted to mention, move your paper however it makes it easier for you to get the tape down, especially if you're doing the curved lines.
The curved areas can be a little bit trickier, so here's another example. I start by sticking the tape down at the edge, then finding a spot in the middle to stick down and at the other end. Then what I try to do is distribute where it folds and wrinkles evenly across the tape. What I'm trying to do is gradually curve the tape. That way the curve and the edge is smoother instead of having one really deep fold and kind of coming to a point on the edge. It can take a couple of tries, so sometimes you will have to peel the tape off and re-stick it. I try to let the tape fall where it wants to, then gently guide it into the curved shape. I'll press down gently and continue to do that until the entire section is completed. I try to remind myself it doesn't have to be perfect, and I just try my best to get the best shape that I can. So I just keep working at it, pressing down, guiding the tape, pressing down until the entire length is done, and then after that, I'll give it one hard press all across to make sure that everything is stuck down. I hope this helps those of you who are working with curved lines. And also remember, the more that you do this, the easier it'll get.
Here's my last line that I need to tape. If you accidentally don't follow the pencil lines exactly, that's okay. I'm just gonna go in and erase. So here's also one more line that I changed a little bit. Once you're done taping everything, if you accidentally smudged some of the pencil and there's any marks on here, or you didn't erase the numbers that well, go back and go ahead and do that. And then I just like to go back and press down on the tape, especially if I have the curved lines, because I don't want any water or paint to seep through. Also, before filling in each section, as I'm working on this, I'll also from time to time make sure just to press the tape down to make sure that it's completely sealed. And now you have your 21 Everydays canvas, and we're ready to fill it in, which is the fun part.